You see, the game was rigged from the start. They never wanted you to win. No, no, no. They wanted you small, manageable, predictable, a puppet with strings they could pull whenever it pleased them. They watched you struggle, oh, how they watched, with those smug little smirks, whispering behind closed doors, nudging each other when you stumbled. They laughed. Oh, did they laugh? But the thing about laughter is, it echoes, and echoes reach places you never intended them to. See, the problem with playing the fool is that people forget how the fool watches, listens, waits. They thought they were the architects of your downfall, the maestros of your misery, conducting a grand symphony where you were the joke, the punchline, the tragedy. But what happens when the joke learns how to laugh back? They mistook silence for weakness. They mistook patience for surrender. Fools. They never realized that you were learning, adapting, that every humiliation, every whispered mockery, every locked door, every stolen opportunity was sharpening you like a blade against the grindstone. You see, pain does something funny to a person. It burns, it carves, it hollows you out and fills you with something else, something cold, something calculating. They underestimated the weight of their own cruelty, didn't think, even for a second, that all that pressure would turn coal into a diamond. But diamonds, my dear, they cut through glass. And suddenly, it wasn't you behind the bars anymore. It was them. Oh, they saw it, didn't they? The shift, the way your eyes stopped pleading and started staring straight through them. The way your voice stopped trembling and carried a weight that made their knees buckle. The way your presence, once an afterthought, a mere inconvenience, became something they couldn't ignore, something they feared. Oh, fear. It's an intoxicating little thing, isn't it? They thought they had the monopoly on it, thought they had perfected the art of making you feel small. But fear is a currency, and when you know how to spend it, oh, the returns are quite exquisite. They used to laugh. Not anymore. Now their hands tremble when they hold their cups. Their voices falter when they speak your name. They avoid eye contact, as if you're some specter lurking in the shadows, ready to strike. They flinch at every unexpected sound, always looking over their shoulders, because the tables have turned, haven't they? They're beginning to realize, far too late, of course, that they were playing with fire. And fire, well, it burns, doesn't it? But the best part, the real beauty of it all, is that you didn't even have to touch them. Oh no. The mind is a terrible thing, you see. You let their own paranoia do the work for you. They wake up in cold sweats. They hear footsteps in empty hallways. They see shadows where there are none. Their own guilt is eating them alive, gnawing at their insides like rats in the walls. And here you are, watching, smiling. Because the one thing they never anticipated, the thing they could never fathom, is that you were never their prey. No, no, no. You were learning to be the hunter all along. And the hunt? Oh, it has only just begun. You don't need to chase them. No, no, no. That's the funny part. The real masterpiece of it all. They're running in circles, caught in their own web of nightmares, digging deeper graves with every breath. Because they don't know what's coming. They don't know when. The uncertainty, it eats them alive. Every whispered conversation, every anxious glance over the shoulder, every sudden flinch at an unexpected sound. Oh, it's delicious. They become their own worst enemy, puppets in a play they no longer control. Irony, isn't it? The very strings they once used to control you are now wrapped so tightly around their own throats. They keep telling themselves you're still the same, that you haven't changed. Oh, but they know. Deep down, in the quiet moments when the world goes still, they know. You've become something else, something inevitable. And inevitability is far more terrifying than any threat they could have imagined. You're not just watching anymore. You're orchestrating, pulling the strings they thought they controlled. It's poetic, really. They spent so long trying to make you disappear, and now, they can't escape you. Sleep evades them. Peace is a distant memory. Every interaction, every choice, every move they make is now dictated by the fear they created. Their own medicine, served cold. How does it taste? You don't need to lift a finger. They're tearing themselves apart, second by second, thought by thought. You are the shadow they can't shake, the nightmare that doesn't fade with the morning sun. Oh, they thought they knew fear, the shallow, childish kind, fear of failure, fear of embarrassment, fear of losing their grip on you. But this is different. This is the kind that seeps into the bones, that lingers in the quiet moments, that turns the air thick with something they can't quite name. It's the kind of fear that rewires the brain, makes even the mundane feel like a trap waiting to be sprung. And you've become something they don't understand, something outside of the rules they once played by. They tried to break you down into something predictable, something small, something beneath them. But now they can't categorize you. You don't fit in their little hierarchy anymore. You're the unknown. And the unknown? Oh, that's the greatest terror of all. It's funny, isn't it? How easily the powerful crumble when they realize they were never in control to begin with. They held their strings tight, convinced they were the puppet masters, but they never stopped to ask, what happens when the puppet learns to cut its own strings? What happens when the marionette rises, not as a victim, not as a player, but as something else? They try to convince themselves that this is just their imagination, that the flicker in your eyes is just a trick of the light, that the weight in your words is nothing but coincidence. But deep down, they know better. Because the moment you walked back into the room, everything changed. The air shifted, the walls closed in, and suddenly, they weren't as sure of themselves as they used to be. They keep their voices low now. They tread carefully. Their laughter, once so effortless, so cruel, has lost its bite. It's hollow, empty, a desperate attempt to hold on to the illusion that nothing has changed, when everything has. You don't need to threaten them. You don't need to raise your voice. Your silence is enough. Your presence is enough. Because now, the power has shifted, and they feel it in every cell of their being. You've become something they can't predict. And oh, how it haunts them. You see it in their eyes, the way they dart away, searching for exits, looking for some kind of reassurance that the ground beneath them is still solid. But it's not, is it? No, no, no. The floor is cracking, crumbling, turning to dust under their feet, and every step they take could be the one that sends them plummeting into the abyss. And you just watch. You let them squirm, let them wonder, let them dig their own graves with every desperate attempt to pretend that they're still in control. It's poetic, really, how they flounder, how they grasp at anything that might restore the balance they once knew. But that balance is gone. It's been shattered, turned to ash. And you're the fire that burned it all down. You don't chase them. You don't need to. Their own paranoia does the work for you. Every whispered conversation, every glance over the shoulder, every sleepless night spent staring at the ceiling, wondering if you're out there, waiting, it all adds up. The fear compounds. It spreads like a slow, creeping poison. They become prisoners of their own minds, haunted by the consequences of their own actions. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. There was a time when they reveled in your suffering, when they drank it down like the finest wine, when they wore their cruelty like a badge of honor. But now they would give anything to erase their mistakes, to undo what has already been done, to go back to a time when they weren't the ones afraid. But the past is written in stone, and the future, well, the future belongs to you now. And oh, how they hate that. You don't need to gloat. You don't need to revel in their downfall. That's what makes it worse for them. They expect vengeance, expect rage, expect some grand act of retribution. But you give them nothing. Just a look, just a knowing smile, just the quiet understanding that they lost, that you won, that they are at your mercy, and that mercy is not something you owe them. Oh, they would beg if they thought it would change anything. They would drop to their knees, plead for a second chance, promise that they've changed, that they understand now. But deep down, they know the truth. They made you into this. They built the monster they now fear. And there is no undoing that. No turning back. No erasing the scars they left behind. The only thing left is the silence, the waiting, the knowledge that the tables have turned, and that they are the ones being watched now. Because the game isn't over. No, no, no. It's just getting started. They tried to run, didn't they? Oh, how they scrambled, clawing at the walls of their own paranoia, desperate to escape the specter that was once so insignificant in their eyes. But where do you run when the fear isn't behind you? Where do you hide when the monster isn't under your bed, but inside your head? You see, their downfall wasn't a sudden collapse. No grand explosion of regret and horror. No, no, no. It was slow, agonizing. A drip feed of their own nightmares bleeding into every waking moment. It started as whispers, faint, barely perceptible echoes in the corridors of their minds. Then came the tension, that sickening twist in their stomachs every time they heard your name. They thought they could drown it out, silence it with denial. But fear? Fear is a patient beast. It doesn't rush, it waits. And then, the cracks began to show. One by one, they unraveled. The ringleaders, the ones who once dictated your suffering with a flick of their wrists, became jittery, unfocused. They started making mistakes, stuttering over their own words, their hands trembling with a weight they could no longer bear. It's fascinating, really, how the mind betrays itself under pressure. How the ones who once reveled in control now found themselves suffocating under the very power they thought was theirs to wield. Oh, but the best part? They did it to themselves. You never needed to lay a hand on them, never needed to raise your voice. The mere thought of you, the idea that you were still out there, watching, waiting, was enough to send them spiraling. They used to walk with arrogance, heads held high, as if the world owed them something. Now they shrink in their own skin, haunted by shadows that were never there, flinching at sounds that hold no threat. Their confidence has rotted away, leaving behind husks of the tormentors they used to be. One lost their appetite, food turning to ash in their mouth. Another started locking their doors twice, thrice, quadruple checking every night, as if a bolt could stop the inevitable. Some stopped showing up altogether, their absences whispered about in hushed, uneasy tones. And then, one of them snapped. A public breakdown, right in front of the others. The mask fell away, eyes wild, breath ragged, words tumbling out in frantic desperation. They screamed about things no one else could see, about ghosts in the mirrors and voices in the dark, about footsteps that didn't belong to anyone. No one knew what to do. No one could help them. Because how do you save someone from a fear that has no face? How do you protect them from something that isn't chasing them, but waiting for them to collapse under their own weight? Oh, but you're not done, are you? No, not yet. You see, this is the part they never understood. Power isn't about brute force. It isn't about making the loudest threats or showing the sharpest teeth. Power is quiet, subtle. It creeps into the corners of the mind and settles there, festering like a slow poison until there's nothing left but fear and regret. And now they understand. Too late, of course. But understanding always comes at a cost. They wanted you broken. They wanted you weak. But here you stand, not just unbroken, but transformed. And they are ruins of their own making. This was never about revenge. Revenge is too simple, too crude. No, this was about something far more profound. Balance, equilibrium, letting the weight of their own sins drag them into the abyss they once prepared for you. And as they sink, as the last remnants of their fragile power crumble into dust, they finally look to you, not with mockery, not with arrogance, but with something else entirely: desperation. Because now, they aren't laughing. Now, they aren't in control. Now, they are the ones begging, pleading for the mercy they never once considered giving. And you smile, because the tables have turned, and this time, the game is yours to play.